Joseph, congratulations on a report. And what I love about it is the acuity of the global billionaire. Tell us about the little chart in the back of the Chinese billionaire. Are they less billionaire-like with a slower China and a trade war?
I think there are two effects that created a little bit of a dip. One effect, obviously, the stronger dollar. So if you look at the currency effect, it's about 60% of the story is currency-driven, but 40%, you're absolutely right. China has slowed down, and the trade war hasn't helped. So the dip is mainly in China, where we basically had only 56 entrants and about 100 billionaires who exited the court.
What is the confidence of the billionaires? Obviously, you're doing this within UBS, ultra high net worth. I understand that, but you know, the stereotype is jetting around and going to conferences and all that. Forget about that. What's the interior confidence to sustain and enrich business?
So billionaires, as we know them, and I know a lot of them and speak a lot of them, that's my daily job, so to speak. They are human beings like you and me and driven by entrepreneurial efforts and visions. So these are very hardworking people taking huge risks, not being afraid of failures, more afraid of missed opportunities, so to speak. And their confidence is driven by their vision. And that confidence is continuing as we speak. So if you look at the average billionaire in China, in tech, for example, we have now more unicorns in China than we had in the United States. So that is going on as we speak. So the dip is a dip, it's not a trend.
Joe, is there a slight less, I guess, investment because of negative rates? Do they worry about trade like the rest of investors across the spectrum?
I think that's a very good question. I think the negative interest rate environment that first hit Japan and now is hitting the European shore will most likely hit the United States, or at least that's a concern of what I call big money. And negative interest rates is an environment, if it's long-term, that has never been there before. So people are really starting to be unsure about the future. And so long-term investments of the average entrepreneur is slowing down, but the longevity of the visions of the billionaires is slightly different. So for the billionaires, that negative interest rate environment is less of a problem than for the average millionaire, so to speak.
Christian, talk to me about investments overall. Okay, is there a pool of money that wants to be deployed, but that is too shy to go into investments because of geopolitics?
I think they must play a role, right? I mean, we had for the last 30 years or so an environment whereby, the direction was very clear. It was more globalization. It was diversification of the supply chain. You created global value chains, and that was a very successful concept, whether it was by new entrepreneurs or by old German companies that played this quite well. And now you have question marks around this model. Will we continue to live in this kind of a world where WTO rules it all, or are we going to multipolar system? Will there be tariffs and non-tariff barriers? And I think this must be in the back of the mind of a lot of those investors, and they probably hold back for now. You have a US where possibly future policy could go very much the other way than what we've seen under the Trump administration, depending what the Democrat candidate is, etc.
Nicely said. Joseph Stadler, to end this conversation, how do you, in your study of the ultra high net worth, how do they assume the new populism? Is it here to stay?
It is most probably here to stay, and that's one of the concerns big billionaire money drivers and operators have. They are concerned that also the media and also the governments and officials are probably not necessarily telling a balanced story, but just looking at the disparity and the asset concentration and the inequality, but not asking the question how they created wealth and the number of jobs they created and the value that is flowing back to the society, how that is distributed. To give you an example, there are studies saying that 97% of a technological breakthrough is flowing back to society as value. Only 5% remains with the inventor. Now, if you just look at the 5%, it's still a lot of money if you have a 10 billion unicorn, but why not looking also at the 9.5 to get a balanced view? So back to your question, concern, but will it sort of hamper their entrepreneurial spirit? I haven't seen it yet.